team. We have a webinar today. As always, just making sure everything is running smoothly. Looks like we're online on Twitch already. That's perfect. Looks fine on YouTube as well. That's nice. Cool. So change the title quickly. Yeah, that looks good. As always, I'm gonna give everybody like a minute or so to get some people in here. If you're already here, also let me know how was your weekend, for example? How was your grind so far throughout the December maybe? Let me let me know. And yeah, as I said, I'm gonna give it a few seconds here. We have we have the time. And yeah, as you see below me, I mean we can start with some advertising, of course. Maybe might be even a great gift if you came in and you think maybe your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your husband, wife, whatever would like to, yeah, would like to play some poker. Maybe that's an interesting thing then for him or her to just, yeah, buy him our course. As you see, it just costs €200. We offer group courses, individual courses. You get our pre-flop charts, you get our huts for the holder manager, and so on. And yeah, just everything you need to become a profitable poker player, really. And yeah, I can really highly recommend it. But yeah, actually, so we waited now 2 or 3 minutes. Let's just jump in whenever there's a question. I mean, the video will be on as VOD anyway, so you guys can see it afterwards too. So let's go through it. I'm gonna just go through, yeah, different things you kind of need and what is really, what is like the key to be able to not tilt really, or to, yeah, just how to handle the bad sessions in the best way possible. First of all, you do need a calm and strong mindset. We had some videos, or I made some videos about this, and we also had kind of like a webinar about this already, but I think it's really interesting to just repeat this again. So you just have to accept the results as they are. There's nothing you can do to change them. So why really be so mad about it? I mean, of course you can have like 1 or 2 minutes where you think, oh, well, it's so sick, or you kind of feel bad because it might have been a big flip, and if you win this one, you might be winning a few thousands of dollars, and now you just win a few hundreds or whatever. But I think you get what I mean here. So accept it. Uh, as said, you can show some emotions if you want, maybe smash the table once, or please please don't hurt the mouse. You need it still to play. But so you can show some emotions, of course, maybe yell or say fuck or whatever, that's fine in my opinion, but it should just not let you change in the way you play. So uh, it shouldn't interact with your A game. And that's the most important thing, to just be able to play your A game even after those beats. Because if you let your emotions get over yourself, you lose your A game, and with your B, C, or D game, you're gonna lose even without getting like any bad beats, because then you're just gonna play bad and you're gonna make mistakes that will cost you even more money that because you would normally not do them. So the important thing is really to just make sure you play correctly. Be happy if you made the correct play. Um, because if you don't make any mistakes or just really small ones and your opponents make it way worse, you are gonna show profit in the long run. That's definitely gonna happen. And by the way, let me adjust the camera a little bit. Yeah, that looks a bit better. So just make sure you're not making any mistakes or just a few, and instead let your opponents do more, and then you're gonna make a profit. And I think you already know, but if you play like 10 sessions, in general, even the best poker pros, if they're really good, they have at least have 6 to 7 losing sessions. That's just normal. And it's not gonna happen that you have, I mean, it might happen, but it's just really, really unlikely that you have like 5, 6, or 7 profitable sessions in a row. In cash game, that might be a thing, but for tournament players, that's just almost not possible. So, as said, be happy about how you played and be aware that you can't win in every session. Also, I mean, I, in my opinion, it's just really one of the simple things, but a lot of players still forget about it. So make sure you really know about variance. Because a lot of players always say, yeah, there's always an ace on river on that software, or the chip leader always wins in these situations, and yeah, just stuff like that. So just have it in mind. It's not. It's just a normal variance. For example, in my last session, or my last 4 or 5 sessions went really, really bad. I think I lost like 5 or 6 one-outers when I got it all in. So pretty sick. But I mean, I play every session. I have like hi Max Song, by the way, from Singapore. Nice, nice. So as said, I have like every session I play probably like 6 to 10,000 hands in total throughout the tournaments. So if you think about it, if I have if like 200 of them get all in and somebody has 1%, I still kind of get one outed 2 times per in those times. So that's just the math. So if you think about those things, then it should be fine. And because if you have a bad feeling, or if you always just think negative about this, it's gonna get into your mindset, because it's in some way connected, of course. You just always have the negative experiences in your head, and this is just taking over your mindset, and yeah, kind of puts you again away from your A game. So make sure you know that you cannot control the outcome. Nobody can. Only if you're the world best hacker, then you can control the outcome, but sooner or later they're gonna catch you, so probably doesn't really work for you. But the only thing you can control is that you get it in good. So when you have more than 50% on your side, as said, in the long run, it's just gonna work and you will show a profit. So that's like the only thing you can control. If you can get your opponent to get it in with a worse hand than yours. If you have more than 50%, you will be ahead. And that means that in most of the cases, if you run it a million times, you're gonna win it more often than the opponent. Next thing is just be aware, or especially, pardon my English, especially in big fields. For example, you may have played the last Sunday's Sunday Million. It was a half price million, so pretty big tournament. And because it's that big, the variance is of course bigger. There are more hands played, more players, meaning that a percentage of a hand that you lose it and you just lose the hand like in 10% of the time. It's going to happen a few more times because there's just so many players in there. And of course, a lot of players will play crazy and they might get it in bad, but as said, it is going to happen and there's nothing you can do about it. So basically, the only chance you have is handling it. Either you handle the variance or you change your schedule, meaning you could go to another software because, for example, PokerStars as the biggest one, biggest variance in that case as well because it just has the biggest fields. So you either go to a smaller site, to GG Poker, to 888 Poker, Party Poker, whatever, because there they have smaller fields, and that means the variance is also smaller. You can also just go to maybe single table sit and goes, and then you're going to see those things just not happen that often. Or if you play 20 or 50 of them, you're going to see that, yeah, well, I'm making the money quite often because I'm basically better than my opponents. Of course, they sometimes maybe win like a 30% or 40% versus you, but you see that it's not going to happen every time, and then you're going to make the money more often. In big tournaments, you're going to be all in more often before you get into the money. So this is a bit harder, of course, because then it might happen 2 or 3 times. But just so you know. Next thing to handle bad sessions, because mostly you're gonna have, it's not gonna always be that you lost aces versus kings, so for example, it's not gonna be always that case. And if somebody tells you that, it's probably not true because they maybe made a mistake or something like that and they don't want to show it. So what's important here is to study every unclear spot you have. So first, mark your hands during your sessions. If you have the Holder Manager running, you can use hotkeys. I have like F9, F8 and F9. Whenever I have a hand that is unclear or I just played a hand that is unclear, I just tap that and Holder Manager is saving that to my marked hand. So after the session, when I start studying, I can have a look at this. So you can use that, but not only use it for hands you lost, but also for hands you've won. You might think that isn't really necessary because I won the hand, but sometimes you still make pretty big mistakes and you just got lucky that the opponent wasn't a good player or that he made an even bigger mistake in that hand. So make sure to also watch those spots because you might see, okay, I should not bet here or I should have bet bigger, even though the outcome is the same in the end. But as I always say, when you have to think about ranges and stuff, that versus the range this opponent should have in this position, it would make more sense to do it the way that it is said by the program or so. Because it might have worked against this opponent, but in general, it's not going to work, and then you're going to miss out on chips. And that's what you not want to happen. Sorry. So yeah, just don't be results orientated on this stuff because it's not going to help you too much. Next up is for the unclear spots. You can start setting topics that you can focus on during a session. And yeah, just some examples here. You can go for 3-bet pots out of position that you just mark every time you have a 3-bet pot where you're out of position, or you mark every hand where you just played blind versus blind, for example. You could also go for any 4-bet spots to see if do you even ever have like a bluff 4-bet range? Does your opponent ever have a bluff 4-bet range? What are they 4-betting? Would it make sense to not 4-bet on your own, but to just call, especially with good hands? All those kind of things that you can see. And again, for that, you can then maybe use some programs if you use them to find out what makes more sense to do. In the end, of course, you should come to a conclusion and then, of course, train these spots that you just studied through. Just looking at them once or twice will not help you to master those spots. But if you train them and you know, okay, next time maybe I don't know, maybe put a small piece of paper, put it next to your monitor or so, and then see, okay, if there's a 3-red pot in that situation, You see that small paper and see, okay, now I have to do this, and then you can see if you maybe would have done it as a default, or you thought about doing the wrong thing again, but because you saw the paper, it reminded you to now do the right thing. And I think that should help you. And therefore, you will see in the long run that it is going to help you and make your play better and make it more profitable for you. And that's in the end what it's all about, to play the almost the best way possible to make the most profit, right? Next thing up, adjusting to your opponents. Um, I've talked about this also already a few times, but still think it's really important. So different buy-in levels have just different strength of players. You might hear that a lot from people who don't really study, but they just want to play like $22, $55 tournaments for fun. And they say like, oh, the opponents in those buy-in levels are just so much better. They do some thinking. And if I play $2 tournaments, I just always run into a fish who doesn't know what he's doing. But if you really think about it, um, it doesn't really work that way. Just because most of the times in the bigger buy-ins, the players are better players or thinking players, you still need to be good enough to beat those fishes in the small buy-ins, right? So talking like this is not really a sign of strength, but in my opinion, rather a sign of weakness because he's not able to adjust to these opponents. He's making mistakes that he should not do and losing a lot of chips to those not so good players, as he claims it. And basically, he should not be doing this. He should be good enough to be able to adjust to it. And even though they're playing in a weird way, it should be easily possible for him to not lose his chips and yeah, kind actually be pretty easy to win against those players because it should also be really, yeah, really easy to see the way they play. So some stuff that is probably maybe already known everywhere, but I'm still gonna put it out here. So in lower buy-ins, people don't bluff in certain spots. Of course they're gonna bluff, but there are just certain spots where they almost never bluff. And I'm playing online now for over 8 years, almost 9 years in 2 months, and I've maybe seen it once or twice in I don't know how many hundred thousands of hands where this maybe happened. So, when you get a river race, for example, in 98 to 99% of the time, your opponent has a really, really strong hand. So, if, for example, you have a flush and the river pairs the board, you're going for a value bet, and suddenly the opponent raises. If you just have a small flush, he's at least going to have a better flush, or he's going to have a full house. You're never going to see like just rivered trips, or as said, only like in 1 or 2% of the time. But in those other 98% of the time, he's going to have a better flush or a full house. So it's annoying, but it's a pretty easy fold in those things. If you think about higher buy-in levels, there it might be the case that the opponent knows that in his range he might have those hands, so he can actually bluff it. He might have let's say there are three spades, you have a nine high flush, and he has the ace of spades. He will be probably good enough to think that I have the ace of spades, so you can't have the nut flush. So it's a pretty big chance for me I can bluff in this spot because my opponent can't have the nut flush. Also, there's the full house possibility. He might be even blocking like a full house hand. So if it's he might have like ace 10 and there's a 10 on the board, two eights and a 6 and a 5 or something like that. So he has like some blocker effects and he knows how this works. So in that case, it's definitely going to happen more often that your opponent is bluffing and you can call. But as I said, in those small buy-ins, just not gonna be the case most of the time. Next thing, talking about four bet bluffs. To be honest, have you ever really seen? Sorry, I just need to adjust something here. So now it's fine again. Have you ever really seen in like a $2 tournament somebody four bet bluffing? If it's not a PKO, because then people go crazy for small bounties. But in a normal freeze out or if there's no really a big bounty involved, do you ever really see a 4-bet bluff? And by that I mean anything weaker than, yeah, ace queen suited. Because if it's like ace 10, 4-betting is definitely more like a bluff. And I'm not talking about small where he 4-bet shoves, because blind versus blind, for example, then ace 10 is definitely good enough. I'm really talking about like early versus middle position, and then the guy 4-bets, you fold, and he shows up with ace 3 or something like that. Really not gonna happen too much. And also, last thing, ranges are different on every position. So there's people who they might have like a favorite hand, five deuce off, 5-4 off, or whatever. And I see that plenty of times because I also do play some of the smaller buy-ins still. And yeah, the last time somebody came up from UTG +1 where he called my UTG race with five deuce off, and the flop was king deuce deuce. I had ace king, and he showed up with five deuce. Of course, you kind of never have that in his range, but in those small tournaments, you kind of have to think outside the box and even think about the impossible, because in that range, he should really never have even deuces, and that would be one combo because there's only two deuces left in the deck, right? So there's could be in flatting deuces. UTG plus one is of course also not a thing really, but you have to think that it is possible. And some players just really want to play almost every hand. You can see that on the stats when they have like a VPIP of 60, 70%, or even if it's just 40%, that's such a huge number. Then you can see, okay, their ranges are really wide, and you have to expect the unexpectable. And yeah, finishing with that, again, like don't use an excuse like the players are just being lucky all the time or something like that, and you would play way better on highest buy-ins, because most of the time, let's be real, uh, you can't afford playing these big buy-ins because you don't have the bankroll for that. I mean, it's the same for me. I would probably feel better just playing the smaller fields in like with like 300 players, playing like a $22 freeze out or the $33 freeze out. And even though I do play up to $27, I'm not taking all the 22, $27 tournaments, and I'm almost never taking any $33 tournaments because they're kind of out of my bankroll, at least with the really conservative bankroll management I'm working with. And therefore, I have to also play like the small $5, $2 ones where you have thousands of players. And as I said, you're gonna see some incredible stuff. And if you watch my streams from time to time, you see that happening sometimes where I'm really looking like this, and I'm just really confused and surprised that somebody can wake up with such hand in that position, um, even that deep sometimes, maybe like deep stacked in the tournament. They do wake up with weird hands, and yeah, that's gonna happen. So you have to really adjust to those things, and if you can't handle that, then you definitely have to get back to the lab again and do some more studying and training. Next thing up, change schedule. You already saw that earlier when I said if you can't really handle some buy-ins or uh, some players at some time, it might work to change the schedule. So if you see that your ROI, your return on investment, is maybe low on some specific tournaments, maybe some tournaments. So for example, there's one $11 with a 250 players cap tournament, which is really full of regulars. Like it's every day or every night at like I think it starts at 9 or 10 p.m. or something like that, and it has a lot of recs. So you can see, okay, I'm almost never getting into the money in that one. So it might be better to take it out because my ROI here is just so bad. And instead of playing that $11 tournament, maybe I can play another one, or I can play, I don't know, like a $7 sit and go with that because the ROI will be way better in this. Um, Next thing, also high variance again. If you have two huge fields, so I said, if you play only on PokerStars, you have to get used to having big fields with a lot of players in there. And maybe it's better for you to switch to another side where you, instead of having 3,000 players and like the big 330, you go on 888 poker or on party poker where a normal $3.30 freeze out just has 250 or 300 players. Of course, you can't win as much money in those, but you're going to make the money more often and you're going to be in one of the top placed finishes also more often. And then your profit might be in the end even better, even though you have to cash more often in the top two, top three to win as much money as you would win with making one final table in that PokerStars tournament. And next thing here, like some wrong adjustments to the tournament structure. So maybe you are not that good in deep stack play, for example. So I have a friend who kind of just racks every tournament with like 2-3 minutes to go, or he's all most of the time even late max ragging, meaning he jumps in the tournament just before the registration closes. He does that with turbos, with hyper turbos, and with normal tournaments. In PKOs, he goes in a bit earlier because the ranges are even wider, and jumping in that with like 10 15 bigs doesn't make too much sense because of course you want to go for the bounties because that's half of the prize pool, right? So that's not the case. But for every other tournament he just goes in with 10 15 big blinds, and he knows his charts 100% perfect, so he knows exactly what he can shove, what he can call, what he can reshove, what he can maybe 3-bet fold even sometimes, and whatnot. And in that way, he's making way more money as jumping in when the tournament starts with 150 big blinds and just bluffing it all off, or making the wrong bet sizes because he's not really good in that. Um, and yeah, he's just making way more money. Also, he's saving a lot of time by registering with 1 minute left than with registering with 1.5 hours left, right? So maybe teach yourself or think about yourself if you're better or worse playing deep stack or short stack. Um, Also, one more tip, especially in those turbo tournaments, when you do that variant, you actually, and that's also my experience because I've tried that for some time as well. If you jump in the last second with 10, 15 bigs, you kind of really, in most of the cases, have to double once, and then you have a stack to make the money. So if it's for you about at least cashing more often, and you're not care or you don't think about that much, okay, running deep is really hard anyway, so I'm just want to secure my cash and then see how it works. As I said, in those cases, you're gonna make the money way more often than when you start playing from the beginning, and you maybe even bust before the registration closes. So next thing, just focusing on other tournaments and add more tournaments with smaller field, different structure. I talked about that with the ROI as well. So maybe PKOs aren't a thing for you because you do play with good ranges, but your opponents are just going crazy and they kind of own you because yeah, you don't really adjust to it as well as you could. So you still going for the ranges you think are okay, but for PKOs, for bounties, you should go for wider ranges. In turbos, when you have specific blinds, maybe you should even be a bit tighter sometimes, or again wider. Depends always on the structure. And it doesn't work that good for you, then maybe just put those tournaments out. And I mean, you have so much time. You can try so many things. Maybe you just go for six max tournaments. You just go for full ring. Maybe you're a heads up pro, so you can try go for heads up tournaments, heads up sit and goes. You can try so many things, and then you can see after having a small sample size or like of a few hundred tournaments or sit and goes of that, you can see, okay, I'm having quite a good win rate here. Maybe I can try doing that. Of course, important thing always, it should make you happy. It should make fun for you. If that's not the case, then stick to what you're doing, but then you probably have to study a bit more to find out where the problems are and where you can get a bigger win rate. Next thing up, sorry guys. Yeah. Next thing up, and this is already the last slide here for today. And if you have any questions, always fire them in. I'm more than happy to talk about this. Talk to other players, talk to friends, talk to coaches if you know some, if you have worked with some, if you do still work with some. because getting a different opinion might always change your approach to play the hand. It improves your way of looking at spots, and it will just help you and maybe also your friends to discuss those certain spots. So, for example, you go, especially if you have a live tournament, like when you bust out in a hand, please don't go to your friends and said, "Oh my God, I got sucked out again. I got it in aces versus kings, and he rivered a king." That doesn't help anybody. Your friend's gonna say, "Yeah, unlucky man, GG," and that's it. Of course, it's always gonna happen. I sometimes do that as well, but I'm not. I try to just say, "Yeah, yeah, aces into kings, king on the river, GG." That's it. But if you have some interesting spots, please either write them down on your phone or type them in somewhere, or at least keep them in your memory, because then you can go to him during a break and say, "Hey, listen, I have a pretty interesting spot here. So I opened with blah blah blah, and then middle position, who I think is a regular, three betted me. Now the small blind, who's a fish, he cold called, and I thought, yeah, I want to isolate the fish, and I think the regular player knows that I'm a good player as well, so he's three betting me a bit lighter, and I've seen him play three betting pretty light. And what do you think? Like, what should be my range?" And stuff like this. Or you go like in another spot. I defended the big blind. I flopped second pair, and it was third pair on the river, and he kept barreling. I think his range should consist of this and this, so he should not hit the board too often. What do you think I should do? Or you can talk about bet sizes. If you think, should I overbet this turn? Should I overbet this river? Should I three bet bigger or smaller? And all those different things. And if you have friends that also are at least on your level or almost on your level or maybe even better than you, they maybe even play higher than you, then you can always just win in the end because it's going to help you so much. And then they're going to tell you their approach, telling you, "Yeah, well, I think you probably made a mistake in that position because if you think about the maybe even the structure or the time of the tournament, he's probably not gonna do that too light." Or, "Yeah, I know that opponent, he is doing it light, so good idea from you to four bet in that case. You mostly get him out here, and you're deep enough to sometimes have a four bet bluff here," and so on and so forth. You see, there's just so many things you can discuss, and it helps you way more than again going for, "Oh yeah, I opened ace king, somebody three bet, I went all in, he had jacks, and I didn't win the flip. I never win the flips. Oh my god." See, who does that help? It only kills the time. It doesn't help your friend. It doesn't help yourself to make you feel better in any way. You just want to, you want some pity from your friends maybe. But if they're good friends, they shouldn't give it to you. They should just say, "Yeah, man, forget it. GG. You made the right decision. Next time it's going to be better." So that's how it should go. Last but not least, if you have coaches, as said, if you're working with some from time to time, or if you have maybe even friends as coaches or coaches as friends, uh, you can just have constant reviews with them, because they might tell you, "Okay, I see some problems there and there, you should work on that." Then you do the next review, maybe like a month later, with 20,000 more hands. You marked like another 150, 200 hands, and he sees, "Well, Marcus, you actually did the same mistake three more times now after we had that. Why is that the case? Let's have a look." And if you have like this constant reviews, they can tell you so many things. They will remember those things because, of course, they are working with you. So there's like this back and forth always. And then you have to, because, of course, he wants to see improvement. And actually, of course, you want to see improvement on yourself. So you need to focus on that and then be able to adjust. And if there is a problem, to repair that, or to be able to not have that problem the next time. And then you can see, "Oh, nice, Marcus, we have this spot again here, but this time you made the perfect play. Like, it worked. So good thing we talked about this." And that's perfect. And maybe even, as you see here, maybe just focus on one topic per session, because that helps to like extract the maximum value of knowledge for you. Because then your head is only into this spot, And then you always have, as said earlier, when you have 3-bet pots out of position. And in this case, you only talk about 3-bet pots out of position. And he said, okay, here I don't like the sizing. You don't have, you're down to 30 bigs. You shouldn't go for 4x if you're not that deep. On that board, you should not continue. And you see, in that case, you made a C bet. In that case, in the other case, you didn't make a C bet. So the second one is better. Like, don't C bet on that board structure, for example. So I think you do get the point here. Let me let me know. Whoops, sorry. Let me know, by the way, if you have, yeah, if you have any questions of some sort. I'm more than happy to answer anything if you want to know some stuff about, yeah, actually about the webinar we just talked about, so about exactly that stuff. If not, then I'll just gonna wait here a few more seconds if there's anything. Okay, so no further questions for today. That's okay. You can't have them every time. Um, then yeah, thank everyone for tuning in. I hope you learned something. As said, make sure to hit the link in the description because then you can, yeah, get our course. It's just 200 euros right now. We offer you we get individual coachings where we can do exactly what is shown here. Talk about hands, do a hand review, I can watch you play live so we can have directly discussions after every hand. You get group sessions. You get a pre-flop chart even. So you should then know exactly, and as I said, just learn them by heart. So you then know exactly what to do pre-flop. And yeah, also our hut, for example, you can get our hut to use, which you always see in my stream. And yeah, I can just highly recommend that to you. Get in touch with one of our managers to talk about the details. If you have any questions, put them down in the comments or talk about that with our managers. And then I'm looking more than forward to see some of you in the upcoming classes. Uh, Also, small reminder for tomorrow and on Thursday, just the last two streams before Christmas, or actually even for this year, probably the last two streams. I might fire up a small one before New Year's Eve if it works out, but for now, then tomorrow and on Thursday, two last gaming streams. We can hopefully reduce our losses a little bit. The last sessions hasn't been good, but if you've seen, I also had some pretty nice sessions just before that, winning the Big 11, winning the Hotter 1650, winning some 550 bounty on Party Poker, and yeah, some nice stuff for sure there. So thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys tomorrow, hopefully, and if not, enjoy the evening. And yeah, see you next time, guys. Bye.